Have you ever felt like your emotions were steering the wheel, and you were just along for the ride? You're calm one moment, then suddenly, a single word, a glance, a delay, or a setback flips your entire state. Your heart races, your mind spirals, and just like that, control slips away. We've all been there, and that's exactly why we're here today. Welcome, my friend. I'm so glad you're tuning in. Today's episode is about something timeless, something powerful, something the Stoics of ancient times knew to be the key to a fulfilled life. Emotional control, but not the kind that buries or ignores emotions. No, we're talking about understanding them, mastering them, learning to respond, not react. Because when you can control your emotions, you don't just become calmer, you become clearer, stronger, and far more capable than you ever imagined. So settle in. Whether you're walking, driving, or just sitting with a warm drink, let's take this journey together. Let's unlock your true potential, one emotion at a time. Part 1. Why emotions hold the keys to your freedom. Let's begin with a simple but profound question. Why do emotions matter so much? Why do we even talk about controlling them? Why do the Stoics, those old, dusty philosophers from ancient Rome and Greece, place such enormous emphasis on this invisible, internal world of feeling? The answer is simple and yet life-changing, because emotions are not just feelings. They are the drivers of our actions, the architects of our choices, the silent authors of our destiny. Think about it. How many times have you said something in anger and regretted it? How many opportunities have slipped away because fear whispered, "You're not ready"? How many sleepless nights have you endured, replaying shame, guilt, or resentment? Emotions are powerful. They color how we see the world. They shape our beliefs, bend our perception, and often without us realizing determine how we live. That's why the Stoics didn't dismiss emotions. They didn't pretend to be unaffected robots. No, they studied emotions carefully, not to avoid them, but to understand them, to master them. Marcus Aurelius, in his quiet meditations written to himself during times of war and responsibility, reflected, external things are not the problem, it's your assessment of them. And this you can erase right now. Pause with that for a moment. What he's saying is revolutionary. It's not the world outside that makes us suffer, it's how we interpret it. It's the stories we attach to events, and most of those stories are emotional. If someone insults you, the words themselves are just air, sound, vibration. But what gives them power? Your emotional attachment to your pride. You need to be respected. Your fear of being seen as weak. Seneca went even further. He warned, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And isn't that true? How many of our worst moments weren't caused by reality, but by the fear of what might happen, or the memory of what already passed? This is why emotional control is not repression. It is liberation. It is the reclaiming of your mind, the quiet refusal to be ruled by the chaos of every passing mood. Because here's what the Stoics knew. You cannot control the economy. You cannot control the weather. You cannot control how people speak to you or treat you, but you can control how you respond. And in that response lies your power. Epictetus, who was born into slavery and later became a great teacher of freedom, said it best, "No man is free who is not master of himself." What a powerful truth. Your emotions, if left untamed, will make you a prisoner. But when understood, when you become their master, they become your allies. They sharpen your awareness, deepen your wisdom, strengthen your will. So this is where freedom begins, not in changing the world, but in changing how we relate to it. Not in silencing our feelings, but in learning their language, so we can listen without being led astray. Emotional mastery is not cold detachment. It is the warmth of self-knowledge, the clarity of a mind not clouded by panic, rage, or despair. It is a kind of stillness that even storms cannot shake. And that stillness, that's where your true potential waits, quiet, steady, and ready. So, yes, emotions hold the keys to your freedom, and the moment you understand that is the moment the lock begins to turn. Part 2. The cost of reactivity and the power of the pause. Let's take a moment together right now and breathe. Inhale deeply, hold it, now exhale slowly. That pause, that single breath, might be the most powerful thing you did all day. You see, in the Stoic tradition, There's a sacred space, small but mighty, between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. It's called the pause, and it might just be the difference between a peaceful life and a life ruled by emotional turbulence. Let me ask you this: how many arguments have escalated simply because no one paused to listen? How many bridges have been burned because someone reacted too quickly? How many inner storms have we fed because we didn't stop, even for a second? The cost of reactivity is high. It's not just about what we say or do in a moment of anger or fear, it's about what we become. When we're always reacting, when you live in reaction, you are no longer the author of your life, you're merely a character responding to a script you didn't write. And that is not freedom. The Stoics warned against this loss of agency. Marcus Aurelius, journaling to himself during long nights of war and pressure, reminded, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions, and his tranquility no greater than his ability to control his reaction." This isn't about suppressing what you feel. No, it's about slowing down long enough to see what you feel so you don't let it drive the ship. Seneca, the philosopher-statesman, painted it beautifully. Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it. Isn't that true? We think the insult hurt us, but really, it was our reaction, our retaliation, our rumination that left the deeper wound. Now imagine this: someone provokes you. A comment, a criticism, a betrayal. But instead of lashing out, you pause. In that moment, you ask yourself, what's going on here? What am I feeling? And what's the most honorable way to respond? That single pause becomes an act of rebellion against the chaos of the world, against the ego, against emotional slavery. Epictetus, born a slave and later a teacher of emperors, wrote, "If someone does wrong, it's because they believe they are right." If you become angry, examine not their ignorance, but your understanding. This is emotional jujitsu. Instead of meeting force with force, you meet it with insight. Instead of letting the fire spread, you hold still and become the fire break. When you practice the pause, you're not weak, you're strong. You're not passive, you're powerful. Because nothing is more powerful than choosing your response with intention, instead of reacting from impulse. This is the Stoic path: not coldness, but composure; not detachment, but discipline; not apathy, but awareness. So, next time life stirs your emotions, pause, breathe. Remember that you are not the wave, you are the ocean. And from that stillness, respond with clarity, not chaos. That, my friend, is the power of the pause. Part 3. Emotions are signals, not commands. Let's slow down for a moment and take a closer look at what emotions are. You see, most of us grow up believing that emotions are truths. If we feel afraid, there must be danger. If we feel angry, someone must be at fault. If we feel sad, something must be wrong. But the truth is far more liberating and far more empowering. Emotions are signals, not commands. They're messengers, not masters. They rise to tell us something, but not to control us. Marcus Aurelius said it so clearly. You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you. That's a profound reminder. Just because we feel something doesn't mean we must become that feeling. You can feel fear and still act with courage. You can feel anger and still choose compassion. You can feel sadness and still carry yourself with grace. The Stoics teach us to treat our emotions like visitors at the door. Open it. See who's there. Ask them what they want to tell you. But don't let them take over the house. Seneca once wrote, "No emotion is in itself a vice, only the excess of it and the surrender to it." Let that sink in. It's not wrong to feel, to tremble, to grieve, to burn with rage. It's human. It's honest. But the Stoic path begins when you step back just enough to see your emotion. Like a storm passing through, emotions are temporary. But your choices, your actions, those leave lasting echoes. So, the next time a strong feeling washes over you, pause and ask, what is this trying to show me? Is there truth here or just an old wound? If I acted on this emotion right now, who would I become? That last question is powerful, because in the end, every emotional impulse is asking you to decide, will you obey it blindly, or will you engage with it wisely? Epictetus urged his students, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish of external things. but guard your inner self. He knew that the world would always provoke emotions, but your inner response, that's sacred ground. That's where your character is forged. When you begin to see emotions not as facts, but as signals, your entire relationship with yourself transforms. You stop fearing your feelings. You stop judging them. Instead, you listen with clarity, not confusion. And from that clarity, you choose your next step not as a slave to emotion, but as a master of meaning. Remember this: you are not your anger. You are not your fear. You are not your sadness. You are the one witnessing those emotions. And in that witnessing is your strength. Part 4. Daily practices to strengthen emotional control. Philosophy means nothing if it isn't lived. That's why the Stoics weren't just thinkers, they were practitioners. They saw life not as something to control, but as something to train for, like an athlete, like a warrior of the mind. And just like any discipline, emotional control is not a switch, it's a muscle. And muscles are built through consistent, daily effort. So how do we begin? Let's walk through a few timeless practices, simple in form, yet profound in effect. 1. Evening reflection. The journal of the soul. Each night, carve out a few quiet minutes. Sit with yourself, no phone, no noise, just a pen, a page, and your day. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations not to impress others, but to discipline himself. They were never meant for publication. They were letters to his soul. You can do the same. Ask, where did I act well today? Where did I fall into reactivity? What triggered me, and what does that reveal? This gentle self-examination cultivates self-awareness. And self-awareness is the seed from which self-mastery grows. As Seneca said, a good character, once established, is not shaken by the storm, but it must be reinforced daily, each night. You reinforce, you realign, you remember who you wanted to be. 2. Premeditatio malorum. Preparing for difficulty. This ancient Stoic practice, premeditation of adversity, might sound bleak at first, but it's a powerful way to cultivate calm. Before your day begins, visualize what could go wrong. The meeting that might go sideways, the person who might insult you, the plan that might fall through. Now ask yourself, if this happens, how will I respond? What virtue will I choose in the face of discomfort? Epictetus encouraged this, not to make us paranoid but prepared. He taught, events don't disturb people, only their judgments about them. By rehearsing difficulty, you strip it of its surprise. You become emotionally anti-fragile, able to bend, but not break. 3. Voluntary discomfort. Strength. In simplicity, one of the most misunderstood Stoic practices is the deliberate embrace of discomfort. Sleep without a pillow. Fast for a day. Take a cold shower. Go without entertainment. Why? Because by choosing difficulty before it chooses you, you build inner resilience. Seneca did this often. He wrote, set aside a few days in which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, saying to yourself, is this the condition I feared? When you've already faced discomfort on your terms, fear loses its grip. You learn you can endure more than you thought. And with that endurance comes emotional peace. These practices aren't flashy. They're quiet, inward, patient. But over time, they change you. They root you in discipline. They reconnect you with your values. They allow you to respond with clarity when life comes crashing in. And most importantly, they remind you of something we all forget. You are not helpless. You are not weak. You are being shaped day by day into something strong, steady, and true. All it takes is practice. Part 5. The link between emotions and identity. Have you ever wondered why certain emotions cut so deep? Why do some words spoken or even just implied linger with us for days? Why failure feels like more than a mistake? It feels like a personal collapse. It's because, more often than we realize, our emotions aren't just about the situation, they're about who we believe we are. Our identity and our emotions are intimately linked. We don't just feel, we interpret those feelings through the lens of self. If you see yourself as strong, being embarrassed feels like a threat. If you see yourself as generous, being accused of selfishness burns. If you see yourself as valuable, rejection doesn't just hurt, it shakes your worth. Marcus Aurelius warned against this fragile self-concept. He wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But here's the truth buried in that wisdom. Most of us try to control the world to protect the image we've built of ourselves. But the Stoics teach something radically different. Instead of building your identity on things outside your control, build it on something unshakable. Seneca put it this way: a wise man is content with himself. He neither seeks praise nor fears blame. Imagine living like that, not arrogantly, but peacefully, where your identity isn't tied to your resume, your relationship, or how people see you, but to your virtue, to your reason, to your choices. That's a kind of freedom no one can touch. So the question is, what are you identifying with? Are you seeing yourself through the lens of your emotions, through temporary fear, anger, or pride? Or are you stepping back and recognizing this emotion is present, but it's not who I am? Epictetus urged his students, "You are a soul carrying a corpse." That may sound harsh at first, but what he meant was liberating. You are not the body. You are not the emotion. You are not the role you play. You are the reasoning being behind it all, the observer, the chooser, the calm within the storm. When you detach your identity from outcomes, your emotional world softens. You stop needing validation. You stop fearing criticism. You stop crumbling at every gust of uncertainty. You become rooted. And from that rooted place, emotions can flow through you but not define you. You can feel anger, but still act with kindness. You can feel fear, but still speak your truth. You can feel grief and still carry yourself with grace. Because your identity, your true self, is no longer something you need to protect with ego and emotion. It simply is. And that's where real peace begins. Part 6. Choosing response over reaction in relationships. If there's one place where our emotional control is tested the most, it's in our relationships. Family, friends, partners, colleagues, strangers. People, by their very nature, are unpredictable. They mirror back our best and sometimes our worst. They misunderstand, forget, disappoint, challenge, love, and betray. And that's precisely why relationships are fertile ground for the Stoic path. The way we respond to others doesn't just reveal who they are, it reveals who we are. Marcus Aurelius, who was surrounded by political betrayal and pressure on every side, wrote this to himself: when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. But I have seen the beauty of good, and that this good is within me. What a powerful reminder. He doesn't say avoid them. He doesn't say change them. He says, expect it and choose to remain anchored in your virtue. That is Stoic love, not passive acceptance, but grounded presence, not weakness, but unwavering clarity. You see, most of us go into relationships with unspoken expectations. We assume others should think like us, communicate like us, and treat us as we would treat them. And when they don't, we react. We raise our voice. We shut down. We lash out. But Epictetus reminds us, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. That may sting a little, but within it lies your greatest strength. You are never just reacting to them. You are reacting to a story, one that lives inside your mind. So here's the Stoic practice when conflict arises. Don't just ask what did they do, ask, what part of me is reacting? Is it my pride, my need to be right, my fear of rejection? And more importantly, can I respond in a way that reflects who I want to be, not just what I feel? In this moment, Seneca puts it beautifully. A wise man is indifferent to what he cannot control. He focuses instead on his behavior and remains calm while others are in turmoil. This doesn't mean being a doormat. It means being deliberate, discerning, devoted to principle. Sometimes strength is speaking up with kindness. Sometimes it's walking away without hatred. Sometimes it's saying nothing at all, not out of fear, but out of peace. And when someone wounds you, remember, the wound is temporary, but your reaction can leave a scar, not only on the relationship, but on your soul. You always have a choice, not just in what you say, but in the energy with which you say it. Not just in your actions, but in your intention behind them. And that choice is where love, wisdom, and emotional mastery begin. So in your relationships, be the calm in the storm. Be the mirror that reflects clarity. Be the pause that heals, rather than harms, because in choosing your response, you shape not just the moment, but the entire rhythm of your life. Part 7. What real strength looks like. Let me ask you again, gently, what do you believe strength looks like? Is it the loudest voice in the room? Is it the person who never shows emotion? Is it physical power, sharp comebacks, or unshakable pride? That's what we're often taught, isn't it? That strength is dominance. That it's about winning every argument, appearing invulnerable, never backing down. But the Stoics, those ancient guides of wisdom, they saw it differently. Far differently. To them, real strength wasn't found in displays of force. It was found in restraint, in humility, in quiet mastery of the self. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man of his time, surrounded by wars, betrayal, and political games, wrote this: "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Just pause with that. He could have ordered vengeance with a single word, but he chose inner strength. He chose integrity. That is not awakeness. That is power at its purest. Epictetus, born into slavery and later a teacher of emperors, taught, "No one is free who is not master of himself." Think about what that means. It means your true power lies not in controlling others but in controlling your thoughts, impulses, and emotions. Not in bending the world to your will but in bending your will to wisdom. That's real strength. Seneca, too, warned against mistaking force for virtue. No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself. In other words, comfort does not build character. Struggle does. Silence does. Choosing stillness when every part of you wants to react, that is the proving ground of the soul. So what does strength look like? Really, it looks like choosing calm when anger surges. It looks like telling the truth when silence would be easier. It looks like forgiving when bitterness tempts you. It looks like walking away from chaos not because you're weak, but because your peace is too valuable. Strength is not about being untouched by emotion, it's about being untouched by the control of emotion. It's not the fire that rages. It's the ember that glows steadily through the night. It's the person who can stand in discomfort not with gritted teeth, but with open eyes and a steady heart. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, ask yourself, what would strength look like right now? Not for the world to see, but for my soul to respect. Because that's the quiet test, and no one else may ever see it. But you will know, and in that knowing, you grow. The Stoics believed that virtue is the highest good, and courage, temperance, justice, and wisdom, those are its pillars. If you live by them, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard, you become strong in a way that no one can take from you. You don't have to shout. You don't have to prove. Just stand firm. Be deliberate. Be rooted in what is true. And from that place, quietly, faithfully, you will move through the world, unshaken. So here we are. You've listened. You've reflected. Now I want to leave you with one truth. You are not your anger. You are not your fear. You are not your past reactions. You are the one who observes all of it, and you have the power to respond differently. Every moment gives you a chance to pause, to breathe, to choose. To step out of reaction and into wisdom. The Stoics weren't perfect. Neither are we. But the practice, that's what matters. So next time you feel the heat rising, smile. You've been here before, and now you know the way through. Control your emotions, not to be cold, but to be clear. Not to dominate others, but to master yourself. Because when you do, you unlock something rare, something powerful, something true, your full potential. Thank you for being here. Until next time, stay grounded, stay aware, and above all, stay free.